Every entrepreneur makes a choice. You can either sacrifice or suffer. Now, most people think that avoiding sacrifice makes life easier. They hold on to comfort, avoiding risk, and play it safe. But here's the brutal truth. If you refuse to sacrifice, you actually invite a worse kind of suffering. You can think about it like this. If you refuse to sacrifice time for growth, you stay stuck. If you won't let go of control, your business stays small. If you hold on to comfort, you'll sacrifice opportunity. The most successful entrepreneurs understand this unbreakable law. They trade comfort for control. They trade security for scale and time for transformation. But those people who resist stay overwhelmed. They become stagnant and they end up trapped in frustration. So here's the real question for you. Are you making the right sacrifices? Or are you unknowingly choosing suffering? In this video, we're diving into the unspoken law of success. Why sacrifice is the key to growth and how it is built into the fabric of life and what will happen if you ignore it. So let's jump in. Success is not magic. It's math. Every decision in life and business is a trade-off. You can't have everything, but you can decide on what you're willing to sacrifice. You can think about it like this. If you sacrifice distractions, you gain focus. If you sacrifice comfort, you gain growth. If you sacrifice short-term pleasure, you gain long-term success. But here's what most entrepreneurs get wrong. They try to hold on to everything. They want rapid growth without the risk, more money without an investment, and more time without delegation. But that's not how success works. The ones who resist sacrifice, they actually stay in survival mode. They work longer hours instead of working smarter. They hoard control instead of trusting a team. And they chase quick wins instead of building lasting systems. And the result is burnout, stagnation, and frustration. Now, maybe you felt it, working harder but going nowhere. And that's not because you're not trying, it's because you're not trading wisely. You're not making the right trade-offs. Highly successful entrepreneurs don't just sacrifice randomly, they sacrifice strategically. They give up low-value tasks to focus on high-impact work. They trade immediate rewards for future multiplication, and they sacrifice comfort today to gain freedom tomorrow. You can think of it like planting seeds. You have to bury the seed before you get the harvest. But too many people hold on to the seed and they refuse to let it go. And as a result, they never see growth. So ask yourself these two questions. What are you holding on to that's actually keeping you small? And what's one thing you need to sacrifice today to create more success tomorrow? The entrepreneur who understands this law of trade-offs is the one who is actually able to break through, while those that don't understand the law stay exactly where they are, stuck. Now, the cool thing is, this isn't just a business principle, it's a divine law. And from the very beginning, success has always required giving up something lesser to gain something greater. Now, Myron Golden, my business coach, says often that sacrifice is giving up something of lesser value to get something of higher value. I like how that's framed. And we see this pattern over and over again in Scripture. The people who embrace sacrifice, they stepped into something bigger, while the ones who refused sacrifice, they stayed stuck or even worse. So let's take Abraham as an example. He left security for a greater calling. Now, Abraham had a comfortable life in the city of Ur. It was a wealthy and established city. But God told him to leave Ur. There's no map, no details, just a promise. And he could have stayed safe, comfortable, secure. But he sacrificed the known for the unknown. And because of that, he became the father of nations. The biggest blessings required the biggest leaps of faith. And we go back further to Cain and Abel and see that the wrong sacrifice leads to resentment. Cain and Abel both brought sacrifices, but there was a difference. Abel gave his best while Cain held back. Cain's sacrifice was half-hearted, it wasn't accepted, and instead of learning from it, he grew bitter. He grew so bitter that he destroyed his own brother. When you refuse to sacrifice properly, resentment will follow. You either resent those who made the right sacrifices, or you resent yourself for playing too small. Another example is Moses and the Israelites. The Israelites wanted freedom, but they didn't want to sacrifice the familiar. Egypt was hard, but at least it was familiar. So when things got tough, what'd they say? Let's go back. How many times do we do the exact same thing? We say we want success, but when it requires real sacrifice, we hesitate. We start looking back at old habits, old jobs, or old excuses. But you can't step into your promise while holding on to your past. The key lesson here is that sacrifice isn't just about loss, it's actually about exchange. It's exchanging something small for something great. In every one of these biblical accounts, sacrifice wasn't about suffering for suffering's sake. It was actually about trading up. Abraham traded security for legacy. Abel traded temporary loss for divine favor. And Moses traded his life for God's plan, and it ultimately led to Israel's freedom from Egypt. And that's the question for you. What do you need to trade in order to step into what's next for you? But here's a word of warning. If you refuse to make the right sacrifices, you don't get to stay where you are. You start losing things you never meant to lose. And this brings us to the final point. And point number 3 is that the cost of avoiding sacrifice is that there are consequences of refusing to let go. Sacrifice is not optional. You either sacrifice by choice or you suffer by default. Most people think avoiding sacrifice means they're playing it safe. But really, they're making a trade that they don't even realize. First, if you refuse to sacrifice comfort, you sacrifice growth. Growth requires discomfort. Every time you push beyond what's easy, you level up. But if you refuse, you stay stuck. Refusing to learn new skills means that your business stops growing. Refusing to take risks means you miss out on bigger opportunities. And refusing to leave the familiar means you stay small. Comfort feels safe in the moment, but over time it actually becomes a prison. If you refuse to sacrifice control, you sacrifice freedom. A lot of entrepreneurs resist delegation. They think no one can do it as well as I can. And maybe that's true, but if you never let go, your business can't scale. You're trading short-term certainty for long-term exhaustion. And if you hold on too tight, you'll burn out. If you refuse to build a team, you'll stay overwhelmed. And if you keep trying to do everything by yourself, your business will always depend on you. You don't just sacrifice your business's potential, you sacrifice your own peace. See, resentment and self-destruction are real. Remember Cain. He refused to make the right sacrifice. And instead of changing, he resented those that did prosper. And this is what happens when people refuse to pay the price for success. They mock the people who take the risks. They resent the people that grow. And they blame circumstances instead of taking ownership. But resentment doesn't build anything. It only destroys. If you refuse to sacrifice strategically, you will sacrifice something unintentionally. So the question is this: what are you sacrificing right now without even realizing it? Now that you see the cost of avoiding sacrifice, the question isn't if you'll sacrifice, the question is what you'll sacrifice. So be intentional and sacrifice the right things. Now the good news is, if you do it the right way, it always leads to something greater. And if you want to go deeper to the number one thing that you should be focusing on to build a thriving business, make sure you watch the biblical secret to business success next. It'll be up here. So the bottom line is this: success is built on sacrifice. And if you refuse to sacrifice, you will still lose something. It just won't be on your terms. So what's the right sacrifice for you? What's the one thing that you need to let go of in order to step into something greater? And if you want to know the number one focus that will transform your business, click here to watch the biblical secret to business success now. And I'll see you in the next video.